Okay, let's talk about the Rosetta Stone. I mean, when you think about it, it's way more than just, an old artifact in a museum case.
Oh, absolutely. It's really this incredible key, isn't it? The thing that unlocked, well, a whole lost world.
Exactly. With those three different scripts, all carved onto one piece of stone, just imagine the mystery there. For centuries,
Yeah.
how did anyone finally figure it out?
Well, and that's the fascinating part, because for so long, those beautiful hieroglyphs, people saw them as almost mystical symbols, right? Full of hidden meaning.
Not like actual language.
Not like a practical way to write things down. It was like a massive chunk of history was just locked away, sealed completely shut.
Right. And that's what we're diving into today, the whole story, the discovery, the unbelievable effort involved in cracking the code, the hieroglyphs.
Hmm.
And you won't believe this, we'll even touch on how you can actually get, like, a museum-quality replica of it.
Yeah, it's quite something. We'll be looking at some insights from the Schiller Institute. They really put Champollion's work into perspective. And also info from the Freeman Institute about these replicas, which are pretty remarkable in themselves.
So the mission, really, is to get why this specific stone is just so famous.
Yeah.
What did it actually tell us? What does it say about, our need to understand the past?
And the surprising idea that you could have a piece of that history sort of in your own space.
Ah. Okay, let's dig in. Where do we start? The discovery.
Let's set the scene, because the stone wasn't found in some carefully planned dig, not at all.
Right.
It was found in August 1799, basically as a side effect of Napoleon's Egyptian campaign. That started back in 1798.
Ah, Napoleon. So this was military, but also something else.
Exactly. Conquest was definitely part of it, but he also brought this, well, huge contingent of scholars, scientists, artists.
That's amazing. Like an embedded research team?
Pretty much. Their job was to document everything, ancient history, culture, the environment. I mean, it was incredibly ambitious.
And that led to that huge publication, the Description de l'Égypte.
That's the one. A monumental work. But you also have to remember what else was going on.
Like back in Europe.
Yeah, politically, things were very unstable. Alliances forming against France, lots of turmoil. Napoleon himself actually had to rush back to Paris pretty suddenly around that time.
So amidst all that chaos, soldiers are digging, maybe building fortifications.
Probably something like that near the town of Rosetta or Rashid, and boom, they hit this stone.
And they knew right away it was important, or it's just weird.
Well, the key thing was obvious pretty quickly. 3 distinct blocks of text.
The 3 scripts.
Right. Hieroglyphic, the formal ancient script you see on monuments.
Uh-huh.
Then Demotic, which was more like everyday Egyptian cursive script.
Okay.
And then, crucially, Greek, a language European scholars knew very well.
Ah, so that was the hook. The same text, presumably, in a known language alongside the mystery scripts.
Precisely. It was like finding a codebook built right into the artifact. An unparalleled opportunity.
But even with that, the hieroglyphs themselves, they'd stumped people for centuries. It's wild to think people saw them just as decorations, like symbolic pictures.
Yeah, that view was really dominant for a long time. People thought they were purely allegorical, full of deep philosophical secrets, partly influenced by things like that Renaissance book, the Hypnoromachia Puliphili.
Right, with those pseudo-hieroglyphs.
Exactly. So the idea of them being elements of a functioning language, that was kind of pushed aside. A major roadblock, really.
Okay, so enter the hero, Jean-Francois Champollion. His story starts young, doesn't it? With an early fascination.
It really does. Apparently, seeing Egyptian artifacts as a boy just completely captivated him.
Wow.
And it wasn't just a phase, it became a lifelong obsession. The man was a linguistic genius, supposedly knew about 10 languages by the time he was 16.
10 languages at 16.
Incredible, isn't it? He became a professor, and that deep understanding of how languages work, their structures, that was absolutely key later on.
So how did he make the leap?
Yeah.
What was the breakthrough moment with the Rosetta Stone itself?
Well, the stone, with its Greek translation, that was the anchor. He zoomed in on the cartouches.
Those oval shapes around certain hieroglyphs.
Exactly. His big idea, his hypothesis, was that these probably contained royal names.
Okay.
So he started comparing the cartouches that seemed to line up with Ptolemy and Cleopatra in the Greek text.
Ah, looking for patterns.
Yes. He spotted characters that repeated in both names and figured, okay, these must represent sounds, phonetic values.
That's brilliant. So he matched sounds to symbols using those known names.
That was the crucial first step. But it was just the beginning, really. This wasn't just about decoding two names.
Right, it had to be more than that.
Oh, much more. He took that initial insight, those phonetic values he'd identified, and started applying them to other cartouches, other inscriptions, especially from places like Karnak.
Testing the theory, expanding it.
Exactly, and he gradually realized the system was, well, more complex. It was a mix. Some hieroglyphs were phonetic, standing for sounds. Others were ideographic, representing whole words or ideas.
So not just an alphabet, not just symbols, but a combination.
A sophisticated combination.
Yeah.
And figuring that all out, it took time. A lot of time.
Yeah, the Schiller Institute mentions it was something like, 24 years of intense work before he published his main findings.
24 years. Just imagine the dedication before he finally published the Précis du Système hieroglyphique. That's just incredible persistence.
It really is. Now, we should probably acknowledge Dr. Thomas Young, right? He made some early progress, too.
Absolutely. Dr. Young definitely made some important early contributions, particularly with the Demotic script and identifying some phonetic values in the hieroglyphs as well. Champollion built on some of that earlier work.
But Champollion provided the full system, the comprehensive framework.
That's generally the view, yes. His Précis laid out the grammar, the vocabulary. It was the key that truly unlocked the ability to read ancient Egyptian, a language silent for, 1,500 years.
Just incredible. So the impact of finally cracking this code, it must have been enormous.
Transformative is probably the right word. Suddenly, all these inscriptions on monuments, texts on papyrus, they weren't just mysterious patterns anymore.
You could actually read them?
You could read them, understand their history, their religion, their daily lives, their government, their art. It opened this direct window onto ancient Egyptian civilization.
Like finding the instruction manual for a whole culture.
In a way, yes. It fundamentally changed how we understood the ancient world, showing just how sophisticated Egyptian society really was.
It really is like walking into this vast ancient library that's been locked for millennia, and you've just found the key.
A perfect analogy.
And speaking of, tangible connections.
Yeah.
This brings us to that surprising part you mentioned earlier, the replicas, the Freeman Institute's work.
Yes, it's quite fascinating. They're dedicated to creating these full-size, 3D, apparently very high-quality replicas.
Museum quality, they say.
Right. And they emphasize they're handcrafted in the USA, not just, mass-produced trinkets. Suggests real care and detail.
And there are different types available.
Yeah, they have a few options. There's the classic Rosetta in resin with white lettering meant to look like the stone does now.
Okay.
Then there are limited editions, a classic bronze and a classic silver version. Still resin and metal, I think, but with black lettering. Quite striking.
Limited editions. Interesting.
And then for serious collectors or institutions, they're developing a classic fine art bronze one made using the lost wax method, like traditional sculptures.
Wow, a proper bronze cast. That must be impressive. And heavy. Are they all actual size?
Yes, they say they match the real stone's dimensions. About 45 inches high, 30 wide, 11 thick. So it's substantial.
Awfully substantial.
They even offer display bases,
Yeah.
a resin pedestal, and they're working on an iron cradle for that fine art bronze version.
So who gets these? Museums, libraries.
Seems like it. Educational institutions too. But they also pitch the bronze one as like a high-end award, a legacy or lifetime achievement award.
Huh. That's a unique idea, giving someone a replica Rosetta Stone.
It's definitely memorable, and, it provides this really solid, tangible link to that whole story of decipherment.
How does shipping work for something that big and presumably fragile?
Well, they ship worldwide, usually within 4 to 6 weeks, but the buyer covers all the costs, shipping, handling, insurance, and that includes a custom-built wooden crate.
Makes sense. Needs protection.
They prefer air shipping for security, and they guarantee it leaves them in perfect condition. After that, it's up to the shipper.
Right. It's just fascinating that this piece of history is being made accessible in such a physical way. And the Freeman Institute does more than just the stone replicas.
They do. It's a foundation, and they have this concept for a Black History Gallery they're seeking funding for. And tying back to Napoleon, they actually sell rare original plates and prints from that Description de l'Egypte.
No way. From the 1820s.
Apparently so. Stuff the French government officially sold off back in 2001, so a direct link to the original expedition.
That's incredible. You could own a piece of that original documentation effort. Any other related items?
Yeah, a few other cool things, like original newspaper clippings from the late 1790s, early 1800s talking about the capture of Rosetta. Contemporary accounts.
Oh, wow. Histories that happened.
And for the real enthusiast, they have a very rare first edition of Champollion's own letters from Egypt and Nubia, written during his trip in 1828-29, his personal observations.
Amazing. It all circles back, doesn't it? That one stone sparking so much.
It really does, this enduring human quest to understand where we came from.
Okay, so let's try and wrap this up. The key takeaways from this deep dive.
I'd say first, the discovery was almost accidental during Napoleon's campaign, but the three scripts made it instantly vital.
Right, the built-in key.
Second, Champollion's incredible, decades-long intellectual effort, comparing texts, identifying phonetic values, figuring out that mixed system, that was the breakthrough.
Sheer dedication.
And third, the result, unlocking ancient Egypt. It just opened up millennia of history, culture, knowledge, completely changed our view of the past.
And maybe a fourth point. The fact that you can now have this tangible connection, this meticulously made replica, connecting you directly to that pivotal moment.
Yeah.
It really makes you think.
It really does, and it leaves you with a question, doesn't it? If one artifact, one stone, could unlock so much, what other Rosetta Stones might still be out there?
Yeah, in totally different fields, maybe. What secrets are still locked away, waiting for the right key?
Exactly. Secrets of the past, maybe even secrets relevant to our present. And, having the option of something like a replica, does that physical connection spark even more curiosity, more exploration?
Definitely something to ponder.
Mm-hmm.
What else is waiting to be deciphered?